So today I'm here with Ron Colpitts in Orillia, Ontario. I'm really pushing it going outside the Ottawa area, but I couldn't resist coming down because Ron's been a long-time model railroader, and he models obviously outdoors and in. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself and the hobby, just basically how you got started in it.
Okay, I got started at the age of 5.
Yeah.
I had a cousin, Conrad Steves, who had a model railroad in Hillsborough, New Brunswick. I used to love going down to see his railroad, so when I was 5, I was given my American Flyer train set.
Yeah.
And it traveled with my parents each time we moved.
Mm-hmm.
Each time we moved, a new layout. And eventually we landed in Orillia. I came here to work in the hospital, and we started building an N-scale layout in the basement in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And then when I retired from the hospital, my good wife said, let's build a garden railway. And so we're out here at the garden railway.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't discuss scope, so the layout is bigger than my wife expected. But it's a great hobby. We do it, and the garden railway is terrific, and we do it together. I do the train bit, and my wife does all the plants and flowers and shrubs. And so it's a great hobby for both of us.
When you were thinking about your railroad scales, and you had an N scale in the basement and G scale outside, what sort of drove you to looking at N scale as the option that you wanted for your railroad?
The N scale goes back to when we got married.
Yeah.
And my layout was in a corner of the living room in an apartment.
Oh, okay.
So went to N scale, accumulated a lot of N scale stuff, and just stayed with it. Now with hindsight, I had developed cataracts, and the N scale pretty much shut down.
Yes.
And I was building the G scale with cataracts.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, built the G scale because I could see it.
Yes.
And then the eyes got fixed, the cataracts got corrected, and I'm back to doing both, and some HO.
Well, there's an extraordinary amount of expertise that goes into building a railroad. Did you build it yourself, or did you have people come and help you with it?
The actual railroad I built myself.
Yeah.
In the inside layout, I got a carpenter to help build the cabinetry.
Yes.
Because if I build it, we'd still be trying to get it built. Out here, I had somebody do the stonework.
Yes.
But all the rest I did.
So, with all the skills that are necessary, this is something that you're not born with. How did you develop all those skills to build a railroad? I
was a professional engineer.
Yes.
And so a lot of the skills you already have.
Yeah.
You just have to apply them. As a professional engineer, you lay out the scope and the design, but you don't usually have to build it. Well, here you can scope it out, design it, then you get to build it.
Yeah, and I guess as well too, probably as a youngster, you built a lot of models.
Yes.
Yeah.
The required airplanes, ships, trains.
I don't think that's changed much. Eh? If you can, if you want to, you will do it.
If I get tired of trains, I build a ship.
That's great. I understand too, you're also a member of the NMRA.
Yes, I'm a member of the
and
NMRA.
CARM.
Yes, and CARM.
Yes. Yeah. So you're how did you get your inspiration for the railroads that you wanted to build? And did it come from that membership, or did it come from a passion for the real thing?
Well, the White Pass, we went to the Alaska as a guest of the White Pass Railway. It was the Trains Unlimited tour. And when we came back, let's build that. Okay,
so that's for your G scale layout.
That's the G scale. G scale initially was going to be the 040 railway in Huntsville.
Yes.
But so I have a couple of little 040 engines. But we switched to the G scale White Pass. Yeah. After being up.
And here it comes right now. I got to get a shot of it. I can hear it coming along the road here. Now, for the White Pass Railroad. That's not the classic color scheme I've seen in the past.
That was the color scheme at one point.
Was it? Now have they returned to that?
No. Well, at the moment they're green.
Yes.
My other engines are all green.
Right.
And I get to thank Brian Earl for painting my White Pass engines green for me.
Yes.
A couple of engines were bright red Coca-Cola. And Brian fixed them for me.
Right. Seeing also, I was talking to you earlier that there's some changes that are happening with the whole White Pass in Yukon.
Yes, I read that the Carnival Corporation, Princess Cruises AL,
Yeah.
has just bought or arranged to buy the White Pass, and they're going to fix a dock in Skagway to accommodate their big cruise ships.
Yeah. So once they've purchased all this, do you think they'll carnivalize all the color schemes?
Time will tell.
Yeah, I bet you'll have to get your paint booth out and start spraying, because you know everybody likes to have their mark on things.
Except Carnival in Alaska has several brand names.
Okay.
So whether they'll go Princess or they would go... Their buses in Skagway have magnetic signs.
Yes.
So it can be Holland American this morning and it can be Princess tomorrow morning.
Oh, I see.
So
you're, I see the layout here, it looks like it's got options in terms of how you can run it.
yes, you can go, for visitors and open houses, we can go point to point with a reverse loop at either end.
Yes.
Or we can pull out of Skagway, the 4 tracks, the 4 docks,
Yeah.
and go up to Summit
Okay.
and back.
Yeah.
That requires switching and running engines around, and so usually you just use the continuous running loop. So it was built with one continuous loop also.
Yes. That gives you lots of options. Now I've heard there's so many different ways of getting your track down, and what sort of track did you use, and what did you use for road bed?
Well, the road bed, first of all, the base of the road bed is mulch.
Yes.
Above that is a plywood. It's a plywood though made to build foundation walls against the earth.
Okay, well let me just zoom in on this a little bit so people can see it. So and then you painted it?
Yes, ran it through a saw to give a road bed shape.
Yeah.
And then painted it.
Right.
And then put it down.
Okay.
And for leveling the track, I catch it with a hoe.
Yeah.
Lift it up and shove mulch under it when there's a low spot.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand that.
So you get to put
and it's been pretty reliable?
It's been terrific. Now when we started, we tried to run it with DC.
Right.
So if you look carefully, you'll see some of the wiring harness is still here. There's a wiring harness underneath the plywood.
Yes.
But thermal expansion works against you outside.
Right.
The track opens up and closes.
Yeah.
And we're typically open for an open house the end of September. Nice warm days, cool nights.
Yeah.
Train's working great, and a week later you got dead spots all over the place. So we went to battery in each locomotive.
Okay. So let's start at the end of the line here. Maybe you can give us a tour as we go along of what's what. So okay, we're at one end of the line, and what location is this?
This is nominally Skagway.
Right.
Skagway's got the 4 tracks and the 4 docks.
Yeah, so this is where the guys get off the boat and get on the tour.
Yes. And right now we've got one extension,
Yeah.
the second extension that comes off this track.
Yes.
And
that extension is just to accommodate larger trains, or
yes.
yeah,
So I
okay.
can get more rolling stock out here.
Okay.
But when you put it in place, people run into it coming up the walkway.
Uh-huh.
So it tends to stay there until
Yeah.
the open house.
Right.
And there's one runaround track. So that's in Skagway, you've got the docks.
Right.
Then you move up the docks, and you've got the car.
You need a big ship there.
Yeah.
Carnival ship.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, well, you being a shipbuilder and all,
Yeah.
you think about that one.
And then up from the docks in Skagway is the diesel car shop.
Right.
Of course, we haven't got anything of that scale.
Yeah.
But we have a little shop.
Yeah.
So
And the water tower.
yeah. And in Skagway, they have a loop that runs around the car shop, diesel shop, so
Yes.
you can turn trains around. So we have the same here.
Okay. Now I see some bridges.
Yes, most of these bridges were bought from a gentleman that builds them.
Yes.
And at this point, they're like 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
All I do is put a product on them each spring.
Yeah.
Make them a little more water resistant.
Well, you know, we have winters here, right?
Oh, the buildings and the bridges all go indoors.
Yes.
Pieces of plywood go over top of the switches, and
Yeah.
the track actually stays out for the winter.
Yeah.
And out here, the snow will be about this high.
Yeah. So you're looking at 4 or 5 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. The bridges are in.
Yes.
The bridge piers are actually the bases of concrete benches.
All right.
You look over here, Chris.
Okay.
There's a bridge pier.
All right.
So I went to a...
That's pretty solid.
Yes.
Once, did you cement them in place underground, or they just dug in?
Just dug in. Just dug down to the set. So I went to a place that sells concrete furniture.
Yeah.
And said, can I just buy the piers? And she gave me a funny look and said, I guess so.
Yeah.
So I bought a bunch of piers. And there they are.
Wow. Looks very effective.
And I'm quite pleased how it worked out.
Yeah, and it looks like you got quite a slab here on this next piece, eh, for the tunnel?
Yes, those are just patio slabs.
Okay, and they're supported by bricks on either side.
You just build up the concrete block, and it was designed...
Have you ever had any trouble underneath in terms of accessing with a problem?
Yes. Last September, we had a chipmunk build a pile of debris in the middle of the longest tunnel.
Maybe a new den or something, eh?
Yeah, well, he found a spot where he could vertically drop from the top.
Oh, okay.
But all it is two walls built out of concrete block.
Yeah.
And the paving stones from patio slabs on top of it.
So how did you clear that problem?
I got my hoe and reached in and pulled it out, the dirt.
Oh, that's a good thing. I'm glad you could reach it.
Well, one of the design concepts is the tunnels run straight through so you can see through them.
Okay.
So on your hands and knees and a flashlight, you can see the length of this tunnel. And the curve is actually open behind it. That shuts down. If you come back here...
So what station do we have here?
That would be Summit.
Okay.
On this layout. And the real right pass, there's no station at Summit, but on the railroad, that's Summit.
Yeah. I noticed too you have some lighting. Solar lighting?
It's all solar.
Yeah, so that must look really nice in the evening then with all the flowers.
This corner looks quite nice after dark.
So the tunnel comes all the way around. Here's White Pass.
No, the tunnel doesn't. Come on over here, Chris.
Okay, well let me just move across here.
The tunnel comes straight through. And then the curve in the back of the wall here is all accessible.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
And this wall's been here 10 years, and the frost has moved it about an inch. So eventually I have to reset it.
Yeah, and they also have a tendency to slowly tilt outward, eh?
But I'm surprised that's
the least of the worries.
10 years, that's the only limits on the damage. About the water effects.
Yeah, it's quite the scenic detail here. It's spectacular.
The plan was a pond to be here.
Right.
But ponds are work.
Yes, and they get scuzzy and they don't always look the best.
So my wife had this idea of all these little marbles.
Yeah.
From Michael's.
Yeah.
So in goes the stone, some cloth in the bottom, and we pour in the Michael's. It's like a glass bead product.
I see. Did you have to make them, or they came that way?
No, they came in a bag.
Oh, okay.
Just open the bag and pour them in.
Huh, that's quite something. It really brightens up the whole scene.
And once a year, each spring, she cleans them all for me.
Terrific. We're in June, and the flowers the plants themselves are growing. They look like there are a lot of perennials here. And you're expecting, it must be quite spectacular once everything starts to bloom.
Yes.
Are most of these plants blooming type plants?
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Like the tulips are all done now.
Yes.
Would you like the train to go up the hill or out to the...
We'll just have it go around. We'll go around to the new spot on the side there. I guess go straight through.
So at one time I thought I'd put staging in the shed.
Yes.
And there's a switch back there for the plan.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah. And anyway, in the winter time, it's pretty hard on the batteries in your locomotives if you leave stuff outside.
You can't leave them out.
Yeah, so you may as well just take your stuff inside.
So the rolling stock goes in the garage, and the engines with their batteries go inside.
Right. Let's see what happens here. This is an extension that you built.
Each engine has its own address.
Yes.
So you can dial up which engine you want to control.
Yep.
By the throttles.
Yep.
And dial up which engine you want, and away you go with that engine.
Yep. Fred Mills got a layout in Ottawa. It runs the same concept, and we have sometimes 20 operators out there operating their layouts, and everybody's on a different frequency. Very dependable. I must admit I dabble a bit in G myself. I have an S3 that I love to operate. Not an RS3, but an S3, a CPR S3. So, you call this the jungle?
When we built this, our daughter was in Europe.
Yes.
And she bought a package of seeds.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous seeds.
Yeah.
And they got planted in here.
Yes.
All these different plants came up, so we nicknamed it the jungle.
I see. And what does it look like when it blooms in the summer?
It's spectacular, but we're past that now. Most of the blooms are done. And now we've planted some strawberries in there.
Yes.
So the strawberries are starting to do their thing.
Yeah, that's very nice. So, I'm with Marian. That's Ron Colpitts' wife. Marian, we're in your garden. Supposedly your garden, but it looks like our garden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely our garden.
So what was the story in the garden? Did the garden come first or the railroad?
Well, originally we had the garden across the back of the house.
Yes.
When our children were younger, we taught them how to grow all kinds of vegetables.
Yes.
For, so they'll have that part of their education.
Sure.
And then we ended up, after they'd left home, part of it I converted maybe 12 feet along into just growing snapdragons for cutting, and then we had a big potato patch and a few cucumbers and tomatoes, and that was it.
Yes.
Then I decided maybe the area that had the flowers in it, which I was thinking of from the fence over to about here.
Yeah.
Originally I was thinking of just doing a loop or a figure 8 or maybe a folded 8 there, so that we'd get 2 levels.
Yes.
But it grew.
Yeah.
First year it grew so that it went not only across the back, the stonework was added in, and then it ran down the south side of the house. So that was just the first year.
Yes.
And then about a year later, we added a section of track that goes behind the shed. Then we added another section on at the end, which we called the jungle.
Yeah.
And then the track continued on down behind our apple trees with a threat of another loop on a trestle, but we haven't done that yet.
So I got to ask you about that process, because obviously in the beginning, I'm sure Ron was cautious about it and came forward and maybe said, I'd like to build a railroad, and you knew a bit about model railroading because he had built his N-scale layout in the basement, and it probably started, as you said, with let's consider a loop.
Yes.
That was your thinking.
Yes.
And then you sort of had discussions about expanding it.
I wasn't surprised that it grew.
Yeah.
It grew very fast.
Yeah.
It grew faster than I had expected.
And when you talked about the options of going from a loop maybe to a figure 8 or reverse 8, that was an expansion, but not necessarily where it ended up.
That's true, because the very first year it went all the way across the board. But at that point we were rather tired of the vegetable garden anyway. We wanted to do something different.
Whoa!
So
nice day today, yes?
Oh, it is a nice day, but a little bit windy.
Yeah.
Originally, I put in a lot of annuals so that we would have flowers right away.
Yes.
And some perennials.
Yeah.
And then every year since, which is 14 years now, because we started it in 2004, I believe. It might have been 2003. So we've been adding more perennials each year.
Yes.
Until now, I think it's all perennials now. I don't think that I have any annuals at all. The idea at this stage is to have it filled in sufficiently that there's not much room for weeds, so that it will take less weeding because of having, particularly the creeping plants along the rockery areas, will crowd out anything that we don't want.
Yes.
That's the hope. We do still get, of course, dandelions and thistles and things occasionally, but we're trying to make it full enough that that won't happen too much. Another thing that we've been doing with the plants is that originally we used to have an irrigation system that was attached along the fence all the way, but we found that watering it in the summer when we're away in particular was just not practical. Either we had it water automatically so that it put our water bill up way too much, or else we just decided to let it go dry.
So now with the perennial situation, you can basically rely on the daily weather here to maintain hardy plants that will not need too much human intervention.
That's right. Anything that is not hardy enough to survive without being watered artificially
gets replaced.
Gets replaced with something hardier, which is why we now have a lot of echinaceas across the fence. We're trying to get it to grow up completely as echinaceas along by the fence. And then in here actually we had hollyhocks originally, but I found that although hollyhocks are really nice when they're in bloom, the foliage doesn't look nice the rest of the year, whereas the echinacea looks pretty good all of the time.
And also too, I guess with birds and bees about, and there are always concerns about them, you might even think about berry type plants and that to help feed the fauna, as it were.
Well, yes we do. Actually, down at the corner, our neighbors have a rowan tree that gets mountain ash. It gets rowan berries, which feed the birds very much so. We also have right at the front of the shed, we have a big cherry tree. That is a sour cherry. It produces small, light red cherries, which the birds absolutely love. We have used them some ourselves for making pies and things, but mostly we simply grow that for the birds to use them.
Well, thanks very much for giving us this little tour today. It shows you that husband and wives can get together and really make trains and gardens come together in a very nice fashion, and we can all enjoy it.
Oh yes, that certainly works really well for us.
Well,
now our grandchildren are really enjoying it too, so that makes it another bonus. Something, I don't know whether Ron told you about this, but last year in October, we had a bumper crop of apples on our 2 apple trees further down the layout. And Ron used gondola cars, and we had our grandchildren aged 2, 3, and 4 picking the apples, loading them into the gondolas down at the end, and then having the train bring them all the way around the layout to the back door.
Well, that should ensure that in the future there'll be a future generation of model railroaders, because kids have a tendency to remember those kinds of things, and they play a big role in their development.
Oh yes, they do. All 3 of our grandsons are very keen on trains. Actually, our little granddaughter, who's 6 months old, enjoys watching them.
Well, hopefully you'll get her involved as well, because there are a lot more ladies in the hobby.
Well, there are train layouts on all 3 levels of their house at the moment, so I'm sure she will get indoctrinated by her brother, who is absolutely crazy about trains. He's an avid model railroader at age 3 1/2.